Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a tough video to record. This video, if you're just watching it when it first comes out, is the 9th and final game recap of the tournament that I'm currently playing in. If you're just getting this video recommended in your YouTube feed, it's a little story of why I am retiring from competitive chess. I'm talking all events, over the board, online. I'm talking Title Tuesday, any sort of speed chess championship. I'm done. And I'm going to show you the game from my 9th round of my tournament first, because there is a chess game to be analyzed. And then at the end, I will talk a little bit about my decision. I will tell you about some of my emotions, and I will address a lot of different talking points, and hopefully not have to bring them up for a very, very long time. So, without further ado, let's first analyze the game. Going into this game, I'm playing against Lane Nguyen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A player from Vietnam, I believe studying here in the United States, college guy, or post-grad. And he's rated about 2,000, and he's having a rough event. He has half out of 8. It's been a tough tournament for him, and it's kind of weird to play opponents like this in the last round, because my friend told me before the game, he's due for a win. Like, he's not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, he's gonna show up, and he's gonna have a good game, and all I want to do at this point is end my tournament, you know what I mean? If I was playing someone my rating, I might even take a 10-move draw and just go home. So I opened the game with c4. He plays e5. And I decided that I was just going to play something offbeat. There was something, no way he could have prepared it. And I played the Rachmanov English. And this is actually a kind of a reverse Sicilian Nimzowitsch. So for example, there is a Sicilian defense, knight f6. It's called the Nimzowitsch variation, and allows the knight to go to d5. But it's kind of like an Alyoshin's defense, right? It's a little bit different. But in this case, he hasn't actually moved the knight out yet, so I'm technically playing at a tempo up. And black can immediately attack the knight. White would go here. He went here, and so I went d4 immediately. After e4, white can play knight d2. White could also, if white really wants to be very edgy, play knight back to g1, but this is a very reasonable move to attack the pawn. He traded and gave me this check. Now, in this position, I wanted to play bishop d2, but for some reason, again, I don't even know the theory all that well, to be honest with you. I just figured we would get a game, prep wouldn't matter. I'm the favorite, like, let's play chess. We can have a big exchange here, and I didn't really want him to trade all the pieces. I kind of had a feeling like, what if he just exchanges everything? This is kind of difficult. I really didn't want to play a long endgame, so I decided to make the game super imbalanced. Then I played knight c3, inviting the damaging of my structure, and then maybe just getting the bishop pair. He played knight f6 and like immediately went after this pin, which I thought was reasonable, but I thought he also should just castle. Like, there's no reason for him to kind of play like this. And I thought maybe we would get something that looks like this. I would castle, play queen c2 to no longer have to damage my structure. And I played queen d3 with the intention of obviously defending. And I thought that maybe here he could go knight c5. I was planning on giving him a check and then catching up with my development on the queen side, but he damaged my structure and backed up. So from just, like, if we just both develop our pieces here and nothing really happens, I have good long-term pressure. I have this fianchettoed bishop, Catalan-style bishop, which just smashes down the board, but he does have various tactics and my structure is a bit weak. So I have to start coming up with an exotic way here to like take advantage of the fact that his bishop is out there as a target. Now, knight b3 looks natural, but I didn't like the fact that he could play queen e7 or even d6. And even though I can get the bishop pair, like, this structure is just dead, right? And again, in the endgame, he has a Berlin-style pawn structure, which is from a Berlin defense, and I have kind of stupid-looking pawns. So I thought it would be better to go bishop e3, threatening knight takes knight, which is a really nasty threat, actually. And this kind of tactic comes from a Scotch, not to jump around in openings, but there is a Scotch variation. The Scotch is one of the best openings that you can play with white. There's the same tactic here. So for example, you take the knight, you attack the queen, and then you do this. How do I know this? Years of playing chess. And the same thing, that's why I played bishop to e3, because this tactic exists, and he might fall for a little trick here. If he goes back to b6 trying to defend his bishop, bishop b6 blunders something really savage, and he did blunder this, which is the move c5, which is just an absurd looking move, but it's the same tactic. And basically, he either takes and loses the piece or has to get marooned on the corner of the board. Like, this is actually really brutal for this bishop, because not only that, look what I do. I immediately just put my knight on it, and I put the bishop on the knight, which guards the bishop, and he can't even go b6. Because if he plays b6, I take, and he has to go like this because he's pinned. So it's a ridiculous looking position. And all I have to do is just play solid. And I mean, at this point, I'm like, wow, his position is already falling apart. I guess bishop b6 was just a mistake. So, you know, I have an early advantage, and I'm going to try to end the game relatively quickly, go home and make a video about how I'm never playing chess again. Literally, by the way. But he plays b6 and then rook b8. So now he's unpinned himself, right? So now I have to kind of use the fact that he's had to play a bunch of random moves on the side of the board. Literally, he's had to play b6. Well, actually, he had to play bishop a5, b6, and rook b8. And none of those moves have improved the situation of his position with the exception of the bishop. Like, now he is not in any danger of losing the bishop. He also could not take, because then I would take the knight and remove the defender of the bishop entirely. So now I'm like, okay, I have to take the next step into his position. I target that pawn on c7. To just show you how brutal the tactics in this position are for black, let's say he retreats and defends. That move loses the game to this slaughtering bishop takes knight, and then queen takes queen, and then knight takes bishop, and then I fork him. Like, the whole position literally disintegrates for black because I have such a massive lead in development. And here I found a way to just swap everything off immediately. I damage his pawns. Now his A pawns are absolutely miserable. And these pawns basically are the equivalent of this pawn. These pawns are not, because I can trade them into something. And probably he will have to play d6 at some point. Whereas these pawns are done. Like, that's it. No one will be talking about the A pawns for the rest of the game. So effectively, I am a pawn up. Whereas here, I'm actually playing against D and C with both my C pawns. So now I play rook b1, which seizes control of the b file. I remove the rook can't do anything because of my light squared bishop. So we have this trade. And now I'm just literally going to win the game with rook b8 and taking the knight. So, again, like I mean, this is not going to happen, but this is the idea, right? The black rook will be overwhelmed. I will play bishop e5, and that's it. The game is over. So I think I'm just going to win the game in the next 5 moves. He plays d6. And here, for a while, I calculated I calculated a really fascinating sequence. Rook b8. And just ready to take and chop everything down. Then I looked at knight d7 back, which attacks my rook and queen trade. I take. He takes with the g pawn. Otherwise, why did he move his knight back, right? I would just take twice. So yeah, knight f6, I calculated gf6. Then here I would play rook a8, giving away my pawn. Then I would play this move, attacking the rook, forcing it to go somewhere. It would move to f8. I would attack it again, forcing it to d8. Then I would go here, and the idea of this move is to create this absolutely ruined structure before playing this move and winning material. Oh, but I do have to be a little careful, because rook d1, king g2, there is bishop b7. So prior to doing that, I would probably play f3, which would set up that idea, or I would just play like rook a7, rook a5, rook c. I mean, have you ever seen a pawn square? But like, not actually, like just totally broken apart, right? I mean, that's just awful. The worst imaginable structure. I'm literally playing like that snake game, you know, we used to play on our phones. The snake gets much bigger. You know, that's what I have to do here. Or Pac-Man. So I play rook b8, and I'm like, okay, that's it. The game is just going to end. But here, he plays a move that I didn't even look at. And I know that's the story of the tournament. It's actually the best move. It's not like saving black in any way, but it's the move g5. I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. I was like, wow. So, of course, I should just back up and, like, continue to see him suffer. To be honest with you, I don't know why I didn't play this move. I don't. I think it's because I saw that he can fork me, and I got a little bit scared. But I didn't realize that I have queen b5, and I'm pinning the knight to the rook. I think that's actually what happened. I think that I was like, well, you know, if I move, then he has knight d7. Oh, my God. But I have this, and I just failed to realize that I pinned the knight, and I prevented from taking my rook, which is kind of tough. And so I thought about taking, but I didn't like that because he just takes, and somehow my threats are, like, dissipating. I can go queen a4, he plays rook d8. If I take this pawn, I'm going to get checkmated, probably. Maybe not, because he can't play this, because he's pinned, but there's a lot of threats. So I'm like, okay, well, this looks kind of dumb. What happened to my totally winning position after after rook b8? So I come up with a new idea, okay? And my new idea here is that I'm going to sacrifice the bishop. And the point of sacrificing the bishop is that when I take this, he will move his knight, right? He will have to move, defending his queen. And then I will play queen d4, knight d4, knight f6, or queen f6, knight f6, and then I go here. And I evaluated, or for example, bishop c6. I thought bishop c6, he plays rook f8, I take, I have 3 pawns for his knight. The game is over. I mean, he cannot defend against my pawn. I will play e4, e5. Like, where does he even move? He can't move his rook, he can't move his king. I just thought this was a very slow and steady improvement of my position, and I win. Like, he doesn't have any moves. He just doesn't have any moves. I'm like, okay, well, that's nice. And suddenly, I realized I gave everything away. That's how brutal chess is. I gave everything away. I have no advantage anymore. I mean, I have the chances to play for a win, but according to the computer, I have no advantage. Why? What happened? Well, what I had overlooked is the fact that on bishop c6, he does not have to move his rook. He can actually just go back. Okay? Wait, no, he can't. Oh, I can take the bishop. Oh my, and this is like, oh my gosh. I did not realize that I have the time. And when the rook moves, it no longer defends. Oh, I didn't even realize that during the game. Okay, but rook f8 is still apparently equal. Wow, that's crazy. I spent all my time looking at knight d7. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I'm still trash. But wow. I can just take the bishop. Unbelievable. In general, though, I thought that this was the position that we were going to get. And then his plan here, the other plan that I totally just did not even see at all, was he's going to walk his king. Oh, God. How could I have overlooked that? He's going to bring his king. He's just not going to move any pieces, and he's going to defend his rook with his king and then win my pawn. So, okay, I thought bishop c6, okay, I mean, knight d7 doesn't work. He wouldn't have played knight d7 anyway. But in general, this position, how do I create winning chances now? So I thought for about 30 minutes here. I used almost all of my time advantage that I had built by playing really, really fast. And I took the pawn first. This was my idea. When we trade queens, I've undoubled my pawns. So now my pawns will work together. This is extremely important because my goal here, no joke, when he begins to bring his king, is I'm going to run my pawns up the board and they will form a chain holding each other's hand, preventing the king from getting close. Something that looks like this. My pawns will then walk up all together and get this kind of a position. This was my game plan to win this endgame. And I thought, after calculating for 30 minutes, that I have the opportunity to do this. So I calculated DC, queen d4, cd4, and here I looked at knight b6 trapping my rook. Then I would play d5 and try to get d6. For example, if he takes my pawn here, I would play bishop h3, okay, targeting the bishop. He would go back. I would take, and d6, and suddenly my pawns are just in time and I'm winning. So knight b6 would fail to the move d5. Not e4, because then he goes here and wins my pawn because my rook is in jail. I have to beat his rook to my c7 pawn, right? So it's insane. So it's literally a game of one square. So then I started calculating king f8, e4, and here for a long time I looked at bishop a6 with the idea to attack my rook. And what I came up with here was incredible. I came up with rook d8 first, king to e7, then I take and play bishop f1, or I play bishop f1 like this. He goes here, okay, then I take, paralyze his king, deflect the bishop from the promotion square, and I go e5, d5, and d6. I also don't necessarily have to do this. I also can just not trade rooks. I can play rook b2 and rook c2, which I also thought gave me good chances to win the endgame and just bring all my pawns up together. But I spend so much time. King e7, I block the king from getting to d6. He puts my rook in jail. d5, king d7, and we both got to the exact spot that we wanted. I made the connect 4. I almost have connect 7. I am missing connect 7 by one piece. Have you ever seen something like that? That is incredible, right? And this is completely winning for white. Do you know why it's completely winning for white? Because of a very simple game plan. I give him a check. He moves his king. And I do something very simple. I trade. Now, you might wonder why I took like this, because this is a fork and now I'm threatening to queen, right? I'm threatening to queen in 3 different ways. So that would just be winning for white. So we traded everything. And now I have a very simple and actually hilarious winning plan. Don't touch anything. king g2. Because if I try to run, he actually takes, and he stops me. So, king g2, king g3, king g4. My king is going for the pawns. He cannot move. If he runs to c4, for example, I just go to f5. Literally, I'm just going to touch nothing. Just going to touch nothing. f4 will recreate my connect 4. He cannot really get to my pawn over here, and he doesn't have the time, because the second he goes too far, I give him a check. And that's it. An incredible final, like, winning sequence, which I was very happy to have discovered. This whole idea to undouble my pawns and then bring my pawns together to hold hands. Amazing. Like, actually a very, very fascinating game. It was very nice to kind of dig deep and find this winning idea and then end it in this brutal vertical king walk. I mean, it was one of the cooler games, I think, that I've ever played. And so that concludes my tournament and brings me to my final thoughts of all of this. First things first, a little bit overdue, and I hope that he can forgive me for this. But before my 5th round or 6th round game, there was a young guy there. Maybe he was like 14 or 15 years old. He was huge though. He was like 6'2", because all teenagers are just twice my size now. There before the games began, and his name was Justin. God, I really hope it was Justin. I programmed that name into my brain because it was right before the games, but I think it was Justin. I signed his board on the c6 square, because Caro-Kann, and he was there with, I believe, his mom. We took a photo together. Justin, if you're in the comments, say hello. Again, there's probably like 1,000 Justins in the comments, so now everyone's gonna be like, hi, I'm Justin, even though their name is like Matthew. Anyway, shout out to Justin. I promised you I would shout you out in a previous recap, and I kept forgetting because my brain was on the tournament. Yeah, folks, I'm done. I'm done. I'm retiring from chess, from anything competitive. Let me tell you why. And I know I've done this before, and I'll address that later. I've talked about how I've retired in the past. I'm done. Let me tell you why. So, in every one of these games, I would spend 10 to 15 minutes at various points, and I would completely miss resources by my opponents. And skill-wise, I'm not there. I'm not there to consistently go and dedicate myself and learn my preparations of my main lines and my openings. I don't have the time or, frankly, the desire. I really don't. I don't want to study 4 or 5 hours a day, which I know is what it will take me to get to that higher level. Not yet, and not anytime soon. I can't. I physically get bored, frustrated, antsy. I want to work on other things that interest me and that make me happy. So because of that, my calculation is imprecise. I'm constantly thinking for 15 minutes only for my opponent to play a move in 2, which I either overlooked or didn't see. I know it's a meme, but it's extremely frustrating and demoralizing and, frankly, like, infuriating. So skill-wise, I'm not there. And to study to get to that skill level will require sacrifice that right now I'm not willing to make, and I'm tired of showing up to these tournaments being like, I'll wing it, I'll figure it out, I know what I'm capable of at my peak, because that's the ego and the hubris that fighters use later in their careers and then get knocked out. And you're seeing me lose a bunch of points. I'm down to 23-20. I'm barely at IM level anymore. All right? So that's number one. My skill is not there. Number two, my anxiety and my nervous system has never been worse. It has gotten significantly worse over the last 6 months. My brain is constantly trying to, you know, like I sometimes say, if you let your brain run wild, it's going to do some wild things. It really will. It's going to convince you of things that don't exist. It's going to convince you of problems you have that you don't have. That just seems like what brains do for some people. I have mental health problems, all right? Some people have it much worse than I do. Some people probably don't have it anywhere, like, much less intensely. We're all different. At these games that I am playing, am shuddering. My body temperature plummets. I'm freezing cold. I'm tense. I'm nervous. I feel it in my whole body. My acid from, like, my stomach is built up after 3-4 hour games. I hate it. I hate it. I don't enjoy any of this. I don't. I enjoy winning. I enjoy playing well. I enjoy making recaps and seeing the channel go up in 30-40% traffic over that period of time, or a business decision to sell my courses, you know, on sale during these tournaments. But I can't bring it. And this happens every game. Every game, it doesn't matter if I'm playing a weak player or a strong player. It's much worse when I play strong players because the anxiety of doing well against a really strong player just, I mean, it makes me just absolutely lose my mind. I'm physically like sweating for freezing or shaking. Like at the board, I'm worried I'm gonna knock over the pieces. I can't do that anymore. I really just can't. I sleep 5 hours at these tournaments. I can't fall asleep until 12. I wake up at 5:30 and that's it. I don't go back to sleep. It's awful. It's probably killing me. It's probably taking months or weeks or whatever off my life later in my life. So I can't do it anymore. And when I have these like down periods and mental health is on the floor, that's when some people who are actually like, that's when the nasty comments actually start to get to you. They don't get to me normally. This is part of the job. Like, you don't understand. To be this large of a creator, you have to deal with all the bad because there's 99% good. The problem is when people smell blood, they come in, and they come in whether they hate you or love you. Because people in this community, they know the pin of shame. They try to. I've seen so many people write nasty comments, then I look through their comment history and they're nice people. Don't be one of those people. I know some of you are teenagers and you think it's hilarious. You just expose yourself. You're not fun. It's not funny, you know, it's just, so I get it. You know, that's one thing. And then I've seen people say things like, well, Levy does gets the elo and he frequently makes fun of low elo games. So, you know, he should have thick skin. Yeah, I do. If you guys had any idea the stuff that gets said to me, or this, I mean, God, the stuff that gets said to women in the space, you know, chess streamers who are female. I mean, it's, good Lord, it is horrendous. But now I'm tired of it, guys. I'm tired of reading the positive too. I'm tired of reading the people that are like, you're gonna be GM, I know it. No, you don't. Really, you don't. I am nowhere near that level. And I really appreciate the positivity. I appreciate the people who write me feedback. I appreciate all that stuff. But it's not gonna happen. And I'm tired of it all. And that's another side of it. You know what I mean? I love the support, guys. I really do. But I'm letting you down. You're supporting me. I'm not showing up at my best. I'm letting you down. And the emotional draining of making these recaps, all right, after a horrible game, I mean, that takes so much energy to put a smile on. And I mean, it's brutal, but it's my job. It comes with the territory. You know what I mean? But everybody has input. Everybody has input, and I got to take a break from this. I really do. Maybe when I do come back and my deadlines are done and some of my workload is off, I'm working on some stuff that I can't even fully announce just yet. I'm super excited to when it comes out, but I can't announce it just yet. When all that stuff is said and done, maybe I will study a dedicated amount and maybe I will come back. But my God, my anxiety is awful. I mean, it's just so terrible physically to play these events. The competitive desire in me wants to play events, wants to do well, wants to study. I know what it feels like to beat good players, but I literally don't believe that I can do it anymore. It's completely insane. I've never felt like this, and I'm retiring, folks. I'm not playing Title Tuesday. Sometimes playing in Title Tuesday literally ruins my day and half of the next one because I'm just so upset I threw away winning positions against good players, and it happens time and time again. So I will continue to bring chess to all of you in digestible, fun, entertaining, educating, elucidating, I think that's a word, content. I will continue to have you convince your friends that chess is worth watching by recommending them my channel or many of the great channels in the chess directory. I will continue to break down top-level tournaments into digestible formats where you can walk away and know what it was that you looked at, or pretend like it was, you know, like we all pretend like we understand chess. I'm still here. I'm not leaving chess, but I'm absolutely leaving chess competition. Hopefully my journey has inspired you to give it a shot. You know what I mean? Experience it for yourself. Maybe your nerves will also get the best of you, but I tried. I failed. I failed in spectacular fashion, and I'm defeated. Like, I'll be totally honest. It's horrible. And like I said, I mean, maybe I'll come back. I was called an attention whore, you know, on Reddit. Like, I'm going to come back and this is all for clicks. It's really not. I feel terrible. I don't want to play anymore. And I want to do what I love, which is hang out with Lucy, Benji a little bit, make content for all of you, and think of ways and interesting ways to generate chess stuff for the masses. On that note, I'm signing off for today. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for your continued support through thick and thin. Get out of here.